for 1.5 hours. As you saw in that inexplicable video, Ahmed was left writhing and bleeding out without the ability to care for him. And what is very obvious is the ease and the callousness with which this happened, the way that it's normalized completely. And there's a Palestinian, there's a line, a queue of Palestinian cars, and the one filming this, who's praying over Ahmed as he's dying, should remind us that even those Palestinians who are bearing witness to this are subject to a state of forced helplessness. They are not even allowed to help Ahmed in that moment. I want to just bring up something, Amy, to the audience before I address Israel's vicious, dangerous, and disgusting allegations that this was a car ramming, and raise 3 questions for the audience that's paying attention right now. Right now is, 1, why is Abu Dis, where Ahmed and my family is from, so severely underdeveloped that he has to travel outside to one of the big Palestinian cities in order to get his sisters from a hair salon? What is the cause of that underdevelopment? Number 2, I want to ask the audience to think about the biggest Palestinian city and commercial center to Abu Dis is Jerusalem. Abu Dis is a suburb of Jerusalem and has been cut off from it by the apartheid wall. Why can't Palestinians, why couldn't my family get to Jerusalem and instead have to travel to Bethlehem? And number 3, and so importantly, why is there a checkpoint between Bethlehem and Abu Dis, 2 Palestinian cities? Why are there checkpoints anywhere? Just think about those questions as we answer this broader question of the context that Ahmed was killed in.
And Noura, that last point that you, first of all, my deepest condolences to you and your family. But I wanted to precisely ask that question. What are these checkpoints that are within Palestinian territory that apparently are not even near any Israeli settlements? How many of them are there? And what is the justification for them from Israel's perspective?
Thank you for that question. The Palestinian checkpoint, the checkpoints that divide Palestinians from one another and that separate them from their homes are an invention of the peace process. In 1995, the Palestinian West Bank and Gaza were separated into 3 jurisdictions, A, B, and C, demarking what was under full Israeli civil and military control and what was under some shared control. Note that Area C, or 60% of the West Bank, is the largest area. It is what is now being marked for annexation, and it is what came under full Israeli civil and security control. The checkpoints that are erected are meant to police Palestinians from traveling from amongst their cities and with one another, and they are placed precisely to divide Palestinians from one another in order to delimit and to quell any kind of national cohesion and uprising. They are also set up because they are policing Palestinians who are not to travel next to settlements, around settlements, through settlements, which are all built on confiscated Palestinian lands. And you asked, sometimes these checkpoints are built around places where there are no settlements, but there will be. But there will be. All of Palestinian territory is marked for Israeli settlement and is marked for the removal of Palestinians. Palestinians have been steadily removed from their homes. They are demolished. Roads are built over them for Israelis only. Settlements are built on top of them. And Palestinians are ever contained into smaller and smaller tracts of land that the Trump administration just revealed in January will become their permanent Bantustans or reservations, where they will be able to practice autonomy, which or derivative sovereignty, but never a form of freedom, and they will be forever dominated. The other part of the story that doesn't add up, and frankly, one of the things about this is you're telling us these details, Amy, right? And so most listeners would think naturally, why would a young man, 27 years old, with his own T-shirt business, who's incredibly happy and smiling on the day of his sister's wedding, plan an attack against an Israeli checkpoint, which is basically a suicide mission? Why would he do that? Normal people will ask that, and normal, empathetic people will say it is impossible. And yet, because of the dehumanization of Palestinians and the racism with which our stories are cloaked, there are some who might say, yeah, it's possible. Palestinians are driven by a hatred for Jews and are basically born in order to kill. As former Justice Minister Ahmed Erekat had said, Palestinian mothers should be killed because they birth snakes. This is the discourse of the highest people in office in Israel, not of the random extremists, but of its representatives who represent them to the world, this so-called only democracy. And yes, Ahmed was incredibly proud of the home he had furnished and prepared for his wife to be. They had shared pictures of him in his home, and had so much to live for and deserved to live and deserves justice and deserves our support in demanding justice and demanding accountability. This is not about one bad Israeli soldier, just as it's not about one bad cop ever. This is a system. It is an apartheid system. It is a settler colonial system that enshrines Jewish Israeli supremacy as a matter of law and policy on an international scale. And it is one that marks Palestinians for removal, exile, or death. And it is done with the full, unequivocal diplomatic, financial, military support of the United States and with the complicity of the international community. So it bears upon us to respond in this moment by supporting the Palestinian call for freedom, by doing the little that we can, by engaging in boycott, divestment, and sanctions for Ahmed, for Razan, for Iyad, to oppose the annexation, to oppose apartheid, to fight for freedom.